Is the unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern? Is unnamed tavern named unnamed tavern, or is it a tavern that's not been named?
Political news.
Right.
All right, cool. I've gotten the okay to move on. Political news.
That was like.
I got some political stuff to hear. Yes.
Who the f is Mike Johnson? Who is this guy?
He's an author who writes for Answers in Genesis.
Oh, really? See, I actually went and double checked and found that. Yeah, I did.
There he is, Mike Johnson.
He blames the current violence on evolutionists.
Yep.
And
teaching evolution is why the United States has
that are transgender allies and that sort of thing, because that's why people have mass shooting.
He's from Britain, right? He's from Britain, right?
No. This is the guy who's the House Speaker for America.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of the background on how this came about. Basically, for 3 weeks, the GOP has been about as functional as a mix of a couple hundred toddlers and cats.
Yes. Oh, yes.
That's about how much coordination they've had. And so they've been trying to find a Speaker of the House for the House of Representatives. Now, if you're not from America, you might not know all the details, so I'll do a little quick recap. The United States has 2 legislative bodies at the federal level. The Senate, where every state in the United States gets 2 senators, but then it also has a House of Representatives, where every state gets a minimum of 1, and then after that, they are apportioned according to population. Now, that is the much bigger body, and in order for anything to actually get done in the House of Representatives, they need to have someone in a position called the Speaker of the House. And that person is similar to the Speaker in various parliamentary systems. Like you might be familiar with the Canadian Parliament, where there's a Speaker, one of whom just recently resigned for, reasons.
Resigned, or was he ousted? In Canada, or
well, okay, he did technically in the U.S. Sorry, in Canada, he resigned. In the U.S., the Speaker of the House was recently ousted.
Yes.
So he was ousted because of new rules that were implemented in order to get him in there in the first place. Because there are some hardline Trump supporter Republicans who even most Republicans are like, we don't really want you here or much to do with you, but you are here and we can't do a whole lot about it, so we have to sort of caucus with you. And so without a Speaker of the House actually cannot hear anything about legislation. It can't pass legislation. I don't believe it can even have new legislation introduced. So without this, there just was nothing. Yeah, it basically paralyzed the entire legislative branch of the federal government of the United States. Now, that's important because there are budget bills to be passed coming up here in like a couple weeks. Because just recently, the United States came very close to a government shutdown until a deal was brokered between the Democrats, some of the Republicans, and the then current Speaker of the House. Right. Now, that right there, that was a deal to keep the government open until later in November. But that deal itself was the reason that the sort of, they call themselves the Freedom Caucus, but really they're sort of the...
they're snobby
let's just say this. Their most prominent members are a known predator of minor girls in Florida.
Oh my God.
Someone who's currently under threat of expulsion from the House for repeated racist and terroristic threats. And the woman who was recently kicked out of a play in Colorado for vaping, taking flash photography, and groping her date's crotch. Those are some of the more prominent members of the quote-unquote Freedom Caucus. Oh yeah, he was copping a feel too. He was more interested in some chest area action.
Yeah, and
so
I think so.
Only
Marjorie
just recently,
Taylor Greene is also part of that.
Oh, that was the one who I was talking about being threatened to be expelled from the House of Representatives on the grounds of numerous racist and terroristic threats.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. That was that one.
Okay. Maybe you said female.
So,
or whatever. Oh.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't specify that she's female. Oh, yeah, it's a woman, everybody. So
After
anyway,
a sexist confirmed.
Is it sexist to not go into the? Is it sexist to not go into the sex of people when I don't think it's relevant? I feel like that's not sexist. I don't know. Like, I feel like I can say that someone's a horrible person.
Pulling your leg, boy.
Okay.
Boy.
I was gonna say, I feel like I can call someone horrible without going into what's between their legs. I don't know.
Yes. That's the point.
Okay. So, as a result of this 3 weeks of paralyzing nonsense, yeah, now we have Mike Johnson. Now, the thing about Mike Johnson is that while he is on... he's somewhat extreme in his positions. Like, he... Actually, even a lot of Republicans, at least in the base, are sort of like, I don't really care about, like, marriage equality as far as, like, getting rid of it or something. And he's like, no, we should we should make sure that people cannot marry members of the same sex. And he's, like, really big on just, like, making all sorts of things illegal, like making a federal version of the Don't Say Gay bill from Florida, which even a lot of Republicans are like, I don't think that's a great idea. Even whether or not I agree with it, it's a tactical... Right. Like, there's a lot of them who might be in the situation where, like, I might agree in principle with the law, but tactically that's just a bad idea. And also, like we said, he's a young Earth creationist who has written articles for Answers in Genesis and blames school shooting on the teaching of evolution. So in addition to just being a really gross person overall, he's also a gigantic moron because he thinks the Earth is 6,000 years old and that there was a global flood 4,000 years ago that carved out the Grand Canyon.
Oh yeah,
he would also blame you, Dapper. He would blame you for society's ills because you are propagating false doctrine.
This is your fault.
Yeah,
I mean, seriously, he would say that Dapper Dino is part of the reason why we're having all these crime in the world because you are teaching.
Yeah.
I'm
not kidding.
I am. No, that's literally true. According to him, I am the reason that okay, maybe not me personally for any particular person, but I am part of the reason that people go to schools in the United States and shoot up the place.
Okay, check this out.
It's because of me and people like me.
Check this out. This guy has like a whole laundry list of like any bad take any bad take that exists, this man has it. So, social conservative lawmaker.
Any bad right-wing take. There's some bad left-wing takes that he doesn't have.
I feel like he would. I feel like he would take that. I feel like if it benefited him, he would take it.
Okay,
maybe.
So, his reputation as a well-liked House member who is respected by different factions of his party, from the most conservative to the most moderate, likely helped him secure the Speaker's gavel. This is the BBC report.
Let's say that, for example, someone like Jim Jordan, who is just a bully, this guy took a softer touch, but is just as partisan.
Yeah. That just means that he can be personable in interactions with members of the Republican Party.
An evangelical Christian, Mr. Johnson has previously defended Louisiana's ban on same-sex marriage in 2004. In 2022, he introduced a bill that would have banned schools from promoting or discussing gender identity. Mr. Johnson has also been vocal in his opposition for abortion rights, calling the overturning of Roe v. Wade, quote, great joyous occasion. Quote, I am a Christian, a husband, a father, a lifelong conservative, constitutional law attorney, and a small business owner in that order, he told the Louisiana Baptist Message newspaper in 2016.
By the way, Chess, this is not just the one thing. He says that often, right? Basically what he's saying is that the most important thing about me is I'm a Christian. Secondly, I'm a husband, then a father, then a conservative, then a martial law. So, for example, he will say, yes,
that's
my faith, my family, my wife, and my children, and my conservative stuff take precedence over the Constitution.
Right.
The status.
By the hard right, Mr. Johnson is viewed as a loyalist of Mr. Trump and a fellow staunch conservative. Moderate Republicans see him as a pragmatic and level-headed leader who can maintain conservative values while still passing legislation. I mean, I think by his own admission, he can't do that. Because if the legislation goes against his Christian values, like, Roe v. Wade or gender identity or same-sex marriage, he throws that out the window.
Well, no, see, they don't want him to pass that legislation. They want him to pass theirs.
What?
To be fair, unlike Mike Jordan, who would never compromise, he has actually compromised because he's more pragmatic in his long-term religious agenda, right? He will take small gains and not do like the so-called Freedom Caucus and throw stuff out just because he throws toys out of the crib because he doesn't get all his way. He is capable of accepting small gains in return for other things. So you might see him voting for a budget that does not ban abortion, but makes it easier for states to restrict it, right? As an example.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by, that's not, if you call that pragmatic, I'm not sure. That he will take small gains and not throw stuff out because he doesn't win at all.
So I'm just excited that I get to do my Trump impression. Mr. Trump, who has publicly spoken out against other Republican nominees for Speaker, praised Mr. Johnson on Wednesday. Quote, "I haven't heard one negative comment about him," Mr. Trump said outside a Manhattan court on Wednesday, where he is attending his civil fraud trial. Yeah. Everybody likes him. He is respected by all.
If I were to use the words of the Republican Party 4 years ago, Speaker Johnson is soft on Russians. He's a Russian apologist. He loves to support Putin. He does not want Ukraine to succeed. And he would be just like Richard Nixon, imputing some reputation because they're not a anti-Russian hardliner. Right?
Since
this
you brought up
this schmuck is willing to let
schmuck number 4
get his way. Striking schmuck number 4, he's willing to get Putin his way and to sell at Ukraine because the Republican Party has not only become the party that supports the narcissist tendency guy called Trump, but they also are Putin apologists.
So since you brought up certain ex-presidents, this guy and his wife used to have a podcast, but the original seems to be gone. Like, it seems to, all of the links seem to be broken if you look for it. Luckily, I found it on Apple Podcasts. So I'm just gonna let you guys listen to this for just a minute. Just a quick little boo.
Oh, yes.
Well, I think also, and we remember that it was Ronald Reagan who talked constantly about a shining city on a hill, the original Jerusalem.
Right.
Which is what he meant by that. Right. By the way, Mike, it's interesting. The original phrase used, if I'm not mistaken, by the Pilgrims was a city on the hill.
Yes.
And it was Ronald Reagan who added the word shining. And I think shining city on a hill is really, really a powerful, powerful metaphor for what we're about, what we have to be about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got an old school Reagan bootlicking episode 69.
To be fair, the thing is, it's very fair that Johnson has not bought into the conservative shtick of being like an Alex Jones, in your face, obnoxious stuff. He is one of the people that tries to be civil about his stuff. He also is somebody who is willing to take small gains and not refuse because they didn't get it all, right? And so you'll see him pushing for it. But again, he's leader of a party that wants to support and abet the narcissistic tendency guy called Trump and his false narratives about the 2020 election because he's a sore loser. He's a member of a party who is pro-Putin, who does not want Ukraine to succeed for reasons Hunter Biden to just they're a bunch of Russian apologists.
I mean, look, I think the reason is they want to be authoritarians, and so they want to be friendly with authoritarian regimes. There's a reason that former president that supports him was all trying to be buddy-buddy with people like Kim Jong-un or Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
New House Speaker.
I'm sorry, Winnie the Pooh. I called him Xi Jinping.
Emperor. Now, come on, it's Emperor Winnie the Pooh, not just.
Okay, fair enough. Emperor Winnie the Pooh.
New House Speaker.
Which actually, I just saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It was hilariously bad.
I'm going home.
Watching the premiere of China go around killing.
And if you were a China's Communist Party supporter, you suck, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that statement.
New House
Speaker. I'm anti-Chinese. We probably spent a number of years living in China. We are actually pro-Chinese. We just don't believe the Communist Party of China and what Emperor Winnie the Pooh has done to China is good for Chinese, let alone the rest of the world.
What if everyone shut up for 30 seconds? Except Chesh.
New House Speaker thinks Creationist Museum is pointing people to the truth. An Ark replica with dinosaurs, quote, is one way to bring people to this recognition, ellipses, that we read in the Bible are actual historical events, Mike Johnson said. Before arriving in Washington less than a decade ago, House Speaker Mike Johnson, a deeply religious Christian, was a legal crusader associated with a fringe evangelical movement called Young Earth Creationism, based on a literal reading of the Bible's book of Genesis that posits the Earth is only several thousand years old.
30 seconds.
Let's point out, when we say literal, what we mean is we pretend that it's literal because there are some parts of it that are so ridiculous that even the Young Earth Creationists won't accept it. Like, they don't actually tend to accept an actual physical dome over a flat Earth with windows in it, and that's how it rains. Is that God opens the windows in the dome over the flat Earth. So when they say literal, what they mean is, we've already made all sorts of concessions to modern knowledge, but we don't want to concede on some other things. For some
so doctor, do they accept
the
the genetic thing about if you have, like the color of your flock having to do with stripes and so forth? Do they accept that?
They one don't, and two, they never really talk about that passage. It's interesting because in another part of Genesis, the Bible concludes that one of the patriarchs was actually a very clever dude, because after agreeing with his father-in-law that his father-in-law would keep the solid color goats and sheep, and he would keep the stripy or spotted goats and sheep, what he did cleverly was he took poplar branches and stripped off in a spiral pattern the bark so that the branches were stripy, and then he put those over by where the animals went to go drink and mate, and then every time they mated by the stripy poplar branches, which meant that they had stripy and spotted offspring, because sympathetic magic is in fact how genetics works.
I would like to point out real quick,
this
is somebody who is a
I'm not kidding at all.
Of the House in America. Johnson has close personal and professional ties to Ken Ham, the founder and CEO of Answers in Genesis, the Christian group that's behind Ark Encounter and the Creation Museum, both based in Kentucky. As an attorney, Johnson helped the gigantic Ark attraction, which opened in 2016, secure millions in state tourism subsidies, while also defending his right to make religious-based hiring decisions. This person is the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, I want to point out that it is directly a violation of multiple laws and the Establishment Clause, which affects states because of the incorporation doctrine, to, one, give tax subsidies for tourism reasons, while, two, allowing religious discrimination in hiring, which is still a thing. The Ark Encounter currently has you sign both a statement of faith and a behavioral thing that basically applies both on and off campus for the Ark Encounter, which prohibits things like, same-sex sexual activity.
But Dapper, you know that the current Supreme Court would side with saying, well, protecting so-called religious freedom trumps all the other stuff. And I used them.
It's certainly more likely to than the last one. I don't want us to too heavily predict what they would do, but that does seem in line with what they would do. Although I will also say, having spoken to former Ark Encounter employees, it was a bit of an open secret there that there were people who made it a sort of a goal to violate as many of the restrictions on behavior as possible. So there were definitely some guys going around at the Ark Encounter seeing just how much they could make out with each other at the Ark Encounter.
I would also want to point out that, well, Maanyaa,
and I'm being a little polite when I say make out. So if you're wondering, yeah, there's definitely.
And by the way, some of those have to do, I'm told, with the animatronics.
So there's also.
I can't confirm that or deny that.
I want everybody, as we're reading this and talking about this, please keep in mind that this person said out loud that before they're Speaker of the House, they're a Christian, meaning all of this stuff we're looking at about them going out of their way to finagle laws to enforce people's, or to, I guess, deny people's rights when it comes to religious-based hiring decisions and tourism subsidies for a religious fucking thing that's being funded by the state, is currently the House Speaker. Kentucky officials
I also want to point out, not everyone knows this, especially if you might not be from the United States. The Speaker of the House of Representatives is second in line for the presidency. And, I mean, Joe Biden isn't exactly, on death's door, but he's also very old. He could die. It's not impossible. And if he dies and Kamala Harris dies before selecting a replacement VP, he's the president. Automatically, he becomes the president. No, he becomes the president. He will be sworn in. And he will complete a term. And as long as that term is less than 2 years...
Elected president and acting president. That's it.
Sure, but as long as he serves less than 2 years, he could then go on to run as an incumbent.
How long have I been muted?
A while.
Or no, sorry, he could run as an incumbent twice. He can run as incumbent either way because he hasn't been president already. It's just that if it's more than 2 years, then it counts as one term.
And again, he is a pro-Putin schmuck from a party 50 years ago. If you said anything vaguely, mildly pro-Russian, would accuse you of being anti-American.
Dapper has a question for you.
He described in an sorry, go
ahead. Do you think this guy will get trolled?
Yes.
Oh yeah, but they're all getting trolled and they don't care.
Fair.
That's the thing. They don't care about being trolled because the people they're being trolled by, they don't care about.
Quote, Kentucky officials are smart to enthusiastically embrace the Ark Encounter and the millions of tourists the park will welcome to the area from every viewpoint, race, color, religion, and creed. End quote. Johnson wrote in an op-ed that appeared in the Louisville Courier-Journal in 2014, quote, Answers in Genesis aims to encourage critical thought and respectful public debate about the various attractions and ideas that will be presented at its park, and that is the beauty and essence of free speech.
Oh, by the way, it's Louisville. Louisville.
It has an S.
I'm aware it has an S. It is, however, Louisville. The S is silent, as kind of is the I.
Not go to the area of the Ark Encounter part because I think it's important for that area to suffer economically disadvantaged. They aided and abetted the Ark Encounter. Need to be economically punished for that. So don't go to the area. Don't spend your money in that region, let alone, please don't buy tickets to that.
Johnson
also, I don't have any faith in the structure and the ability of that building.
I have one thing to say though, which is to say, a lot of the locals were not huge fans of this, and most of the locals have actually not seen any increase, and rather have actually perhaps seen a decrease in their income as a result. So.
Let them get together and kick out its for taxpayer stuff. Let the locals deal with it.
Oh, now Landon is saying that. Now Landon is saying that terrorism is okay.
No.
I'm kidding.
Don't allow the local area to benefit from the arc. Let the locals suffering from what the arc is doing decide to deal with the arc.
Remember what I said?
Put a tax on
what I said about. Remember what I said about more conservative laws and legislation coming in, and the more liberal laws like Roe v. versus Wade getting getting yeeted. What will happen? This is a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
a perfect small case study.
It's Johnson wasn't just the legal muscle for Answers in Genesis, which embraces the belief that the quote account of origins presented in Genesis 1-11 is a simple but factual presentation of actual events. He blogged on the organization's website and spoke at a conference it hosted in 2022. Johnson and his wife Kelly, a counselor who is also his podcast collaborator, which I showed you, are slated to appear at another Answers in Genesis conference in April of 2024. Quote, overcoming the war on women for the glory of God.
Jeez.
Oh my God. Oh my
God. Okay, let me translate that for you. Let's be mean to trans people for the glory of God.
Oh, and also be mean to women, because none of that is pro women.
Because we can use culture wars to get people to vote against their own self-best interest.
And I say that because when you say trans people, it means trans women, trans men, and women. All of them.
Oh,
all of them get dunked on.
They want to be mean to trans men too. They just don't. Yes. They're just less aware of trans men, I think.
Maybe.
I feel like when most right wingers think of trans people, they only think of trans women.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Well, let's say this.
I don't know why.
This schmuck up here was one of the architects on the vote against the electoral college stuff to try to give Trump an ability to remain president. Right? This guy is one of the architects in going after the electoral college results. Because guess what? Biden won.
Yep.
Yeah, he
sorry.
He voted to overturn the actual legal result of the election, which, frankly, the fact that there is a legislative option to vote to overturn an election is on its own kind of an insane thing, and maybe that should be something that the United States should look into. But then again, like I said, I don't ever think I'm going to see a constitutional amendment get passed in my entire lifetime. So maybe it won't happen.